Welcome to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you are having, hopefully, as good of a Tuesday night as you possibly can. If that did, though, include watching the Braves play their opening game of the 2024 playoffs, I don't blame you if it hasn't been the best of nights. The Braves dropping Game 1 of the NL Wildcard Series 4-0. It's not necessarily surprising that the Braves lost this game with how their pitching was set up against an incredibly good Michael King. It's just the fact that the Braves, in a season where they've had some pretty abysmal offensive showings, this ranked up there as one of the worst. Of course, with me as always, my podcast partner, Stephen Tolbert. And Stephen, again, the end result, a 4-0 loss. It's not necessarily a surprise to see the result being a loss, but it didn't make it any easier to see how badly the Braves performed offensively in this game.
Yeah, what's up, Shawn? Yeah, that game, we've watched that game, 50 times this year, probably more than that, where the pitching gives the team a chance. And we're going to go through the game, line by line, of course, but the overarching theme here is that the pitching gave the team a chance to win. As crazy as that is, given what the Braves had coming into the game on the pitching side, the pitching gave the team a chance to win, and the offense just wet the bed for 9 innings. And if I never have to watch this 2024 offense operate like that again, the number of times this team gets a runner on base or a runner in score position and goes like, take a strike, swing at a ball 6 feet outside of the zone. Like, I've seen that exact scenario play out 1,000 times this year. And every single time the Braves got anything going on offense in this game, which wasn't a lot, to be clear, but anytime they had even like the twinkle of a possibility of scoring a run, it was a 3-pitch at bat that was entirely non-competitive, just no chance. And man, we've just watched that all year long, and I'm so tired of watching it, to be honest. And again, the pitching did amazing, but this offensive performance was just miserable.
Absolutely. And to put some context behind it, it shouldn't surprise anyone in terms of the Braves over the past quarter century struggling in game ones. Let's start with this perspective. In this century, since the year 2000, the Braves now are 6-15 in 21 playoff game ones. That's the first game of a playoff series that the Braves played, in whatever round they were in a single season. But the thing that stands out is that 5 of those wins came in 2020 and 2021. The Braves played 3 playoff rounds in 2020, eliminated in the NLCS. They played 3 playoff rounds in 2021, won the World Series. They were 5-1 in game ones in those 2 years. But outside of that, they're only 1-15. The Braves have not won a game one outside of 2020 and 2021 in 23 years. Their only other win, besides that 2-year stretch, was 2001. So from a historical perspective, the Braves struggle in their opening game of a playoff series. But that should not take away from how historically bad the offense was in this game. This was only the 3rd time in MLB postseason history that a team struck out 15 or more times in a single game without producing a walk. The Braves struck out 15 times tonight, did not produce a walk. That's only happened 3 times. But the even more negative thing about that, the Braves have done that twice in 2 years now. They did it in 2022 against the Phillies. They did it tonight against the Padres. And the only other team that did it was the 2019 Cardinals, who scored 10 runs against us in Game 5. So from a historical perspective, the Braves struggle in Game 1, but they were historically bad offensively tonight. And give credit to Michael King, he was historically good in his start. But the point that I'm getting at is that it didn't matter who was on the mound. The pitching did its job. The Braves pitching staff gave them a chance to win for the majority of the game, but the offense was historically bad, and they gave themselves no chance tonight.
Yeah. And listen, Michael King is good. Michael King is a very good pitcher. He's got like a 3 ERA for the season. For the regular season, he had like a FIP that was in the low threes. He strikes out about 10 per 9 innings. He does walk a few people. He's got like a 9% walk rate, which is above league average. So he will walk some people, but he's a good pitcher. You know, he's not like prime Randy Johnson. Like he's very good. He's a very good pitcher. But the Braves offense tonight looked like what they looked like was when the varsity like stud pitcher has a inter squad game with like the JV team. That's what the Braves look like. They look like they were the JV team playing against the varsity's like ace. And just, I mean, swinging at pitches in the other batter's box, swinging at pitches almost to the on deck circle. I mean, Soler swung at a pitch that almost hit him. Probably would have hit him if he didn't swing at it. The all the righties, and we're going to talk a little bit about the platoon stuff that bothers me with this team, but all the righties going up against that, sweeper, that slider that King has, he could have thrown that thing into his own dugout and the Braves would have swung at it. He could have thrown the rosin bag up there and the Braves would have swung at it. Like it was just infuriating. It's infuriating to watch. And again, I don't want to take away from Michael King. He's a very good pitcher, but I've watched this offense do this against atrocious pitchers all year. Like I've watched Austin Gomber dominate this team, and I could pick 7 more examples of guys who look like Cy Youngs when they play the Braves lineup because the offensive approach is just, I don't know what's happened to this. I don't know what's happened to this franchise offensively. Like I don't understand. Like something is broken. I don't know what it is, but something is broken because we have literally watched this exact game all season long. And it's not just the injuries. Do not tell me it's the injuries. The injuries are part of it, but there are still millions and millions of dollars worth of hitters in this lineup that just consistently look like they're just lost. And I don't understand why. And like you said, it happens. I mean, with this franchise, it seems like it happens every postseason. Outside of 2021, it just seems like anytime we get into the postseason, the Braves offense just disappears. It's just gone. It doesn't matter how good it was. It could be 2023. It could be the greatest offense we've ever seen. It could be this year where it's been a pretty bad offense for most of the year or anywhere in between. It doesn't matter. When we get to the postseason, it just seems like the offense just disappears. And I understand, like, when you get to the postseason, the pitching is better and everybody's pitching their best guys. And so offense does go down in the postseason, but like it goes down at a market rate for the Braves and basically always. And I'm gonna rant here. It's just frustrating. It's very frustrating after having watched this for 6 months now, and not a single adjustment has been made by any hitter. No one is like, you know what? I'm tired of making myself look like an idiot every time there's a runner on base. I'm gonna try something else. Nope, not a single. The next adjustment a Braves hitter makes will be the first adjustment a Braves hitter makes this year, and it drives me crazy, quite honestly.
We get it. Mornings are nuts. No time for breakfast, but you need to get your day started right.
What if a delicious, nutritious meal could be ready in seconds? Support for Foul Territory is brought to you by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand. With over 400 million meals sold worldwide, Huel is trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Try it for yourself with this exclusive FT offer. 15% off with the code FOUL at Huel.com.
You know we're all about saving time, but we get hangry, like a lot. I recently fell in love with the Huel Ultimate Super Greens Powder, which is a perfect blend of 91 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. I also love their complete nutrition bars, and those hot and savory pouches are fire too.
FT fam, give it a shot. Get 15% off with the code FOUL at HUEL.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes, so you can focus on what really matters.
Sarah Langs, who is to me the foremost mind in baseball when it comes to, looking at baseball from a statistical end. She also pointed out that the Padres became the only team in MLB postseason history to as a pitching staff, produce 15 plus strikeouts without giving up a walk or run. So again, this isn't just a bad Braves performance. It was a historically bad.
Not a single walk. Like
Yeah.
again, Michael King is a really good pitcher, but he does walk people. Like again, a 9% walk rate is not like a great walk rate. Like that's giving up a decent amount of walks. The Braves did not come close.
Yeah.
Anytime they got even to like a 3-2 count, I literally he could throw it in the dugout and the Braves would have swung at it. Like it's infuriating.
Well, and it goes to show what we've talked about all season long, right? Part of the equation for the Braves' offensive struggles this year has been underperformance. They did, in terms of the underlying stats or the expected stats, when the Braves made contact, they hit the ball hard. When the Braves hit the ball hard, a lot of times, especially early in the season, it did not go out of the park like it was supposed to. But that was during the regular season. The other major difference that deflated the offense this season was how much of a regression and a regression in our best hitters that we saw with runners in scoring position. And outside of 2020 and 2021, in the postseason, even during the Alex Anthopoulos era, that has been a key. We can talk about 2024 in a single season offensively. Maybe this is an outlier. Maybe if we get our best hitters back like Acuna and Riley, we'll be better. But the one thing that does stand out is that it clearly is a trend. When the Braves make the postseason and other pitching staffs, quality pitching staffs, have an easier time matching up against them, the home run ball doesn't happen as frequently. It did in 2020, it did in 2021, but it didn't in 2019, 2018, 22, or 23. When the Braves are not hitting the home run, the struggles that they have with runners in scoring position become an even bigger obstacle that they overcome. Look at the first 4 innings of tonight's game. The first inning, the third inning, and the fourth inning. In each of those 3 innings, the Braves had a runner in scoring position with 2 outs, and to end each of those innings, the batter at the plate swung at a ball outside the strike zone for strike 3. In the second inning, we had 2 straight with I believe Ramon Laureano and Travis d'Arnaud. We had 2 straight 3-run counts that wound up being groundouts. It may have been Denard and Gio Ursula. But to your point, Stephen, the home runs are fine. It's the productive at-bats with chances to score runs outside of home runs that really struggle, and the Braves' inability to do that really shows up in the playoffs, and it's got to be something that changes about the core of this unit moving forward for them to have better success in the postseason.
Yeah. I've said this for years. I don't love how right-handed that the Braves are. Obviously the Padres had a right-handed pitcher on the mound. They're going to have 3 right-handed pitchers on the mound. Most teams, when they play the Braves, they always put right-handed pitching on the mound because the Braves have a ton of righties. And even with Acuna and Riley in there, obviously both are right-handed pitchers. The Braves still have a ton of right. The Braves basically have 2 left-handed hitters. They have Matt Olson and they have Michael Harris, and that's it. And you watch other teams, like when the Braves have a righty on the mound, they'll stack like 4, 5, 6 lefties. The Braves can do like 3. And one of them is Ozzie Albies, who's substantially better as a right-handed hitter. One of the reasons I think the Braves struggle so much in October is because in October you can match up teams to death because you can use just your best pitchers. The off days allow you to just maximize your best pitchers, your best platoons, your best matchups. And the Braves get matched up to death because they don't have enough balance in their lineup. And I have been banging on this door for like 3 years now, especially with the way Truist Park plays, where it's a much better place to hit for left-handed hitters. I don't really understand why the Braves have loaded up a lineup with so many right-handed hitters. Again, even with Riley and Acuna in the lineup, it's just so right-hand dominant. And I genuinely believe when we get to October, they pay the price for that more than any other time of the year because, if it's July and a team is coming in for a 3-game series, they're going to throw the pitchers they have available to throw. They're going to throw, if they've got a couple lefties lined up, then that's who's going to hit, or that's who's going to pitch. If they've got a couple of right-handed relievers who are down that day and they got to use a couple of left-handed relievers, that's what they're going to do. It's July. It doesn't matter that much. That doesn't happen in the postseason. In the postseason, teams look and see how good you are versus each side, and they just load you up on the side that you're weakest. And I really feel like the Braves have to balance out this lineup a little bit in the offseason. They've got to find more left-handed hitting. I feel like they just get dominated by right-handed pitching over and over and over again. It's because they have two lefties basically, and plus Ozzy. I realize Ozzy can't bat left-handed right now, but even when he does bat left-handed, he's a pretty weak left-handed hitter, if we're being honest. So I think Alex has got to address that. But yeah, just like core like offensive philosophy, something needs to change. I don't know what. I'm not a hitting coach. I don't know what has happened to this team where they just every single time they get a runner on base, they decide they're going to swing the bat no matter where the pitch is. They're just going to swing. They don't. I mean, the idea of like taking a walk with a runner on base, that might as well be like Mandarin Chinese to this team. There is no concept that they're up there hacking at every pitch when there's a guy on base, and it leads to these atrocious at bats. And I'm not even talking about the results. I'm talking about the process of the at bat itself. How competitive is the at bat? And it just seems like every single time it is the least competitive at bat of the inning. The most critical at bat of the inning is like the least competitive at bat of the inning. And we've seen that play out all year long. It's not just tonight's game. The Padres are very good. The Padres are awesome, actually. I told you a couple of days ago, I thought the Padres were like a real dark horse favorite to win the World Series this year because I love the Padres have a fantastic team. They're fantastic. They're better than the Braves, obviously. But this is not just about tonight. We have literally watched this all year long, regardless of how good the pitchers on the mound are. The Braves just hack away and hack away and hack away with seemingly no plan and certainly no adjustments. And it's been hyper frustrating to watch.
To put it into another perspective for anybody else who still thinks that, the Braves' lack of pitching or their pitching decisions tonight really played a big part in the outcome of this game, in 29 starts this year, in 23 of those, Chris Sale had 29 starts this year. In 23 of those 29 starts, he gave up one or more runs. That means in 80% of his starts, he gave up a run. So if Chris Sale was on the mound, if a healthy Chris Sale was on the mound tonight for the Braves instead of A.J. Smith-Shawver and the collection of other pitchers that they used, he may have given you a 20% chance to win with how bad the offense was. That's how insignificant the pitching decisions and who was on the mound was for the Braves because of how bad the offense was. So just want to add perspective too. If anyone feels that the pitching is the reason why the Braves, lost this game, it's just not true. The reason why the Braves lost this game is because the offense did absolutely nothing. They did nothing in this game to be able to win it.
Yeah. And listen, AJ Smith-Shawver was not good.
Yes.
Like I'm not going to sugarcoat. Like he was not good. He came out of the gate throwing 93, had very little command. He threw he got behind in the count to arise. He had to throw a fastball over the middle of the plate. He lined it for a single. Then he threw like a 93-mile fastball right down the middle of the first pitch to Tatis, and Tatis hit it 7 miles. I mean, that ball was destroyed. And even after that, he was not good. Like after that Tatis at bat, he started throwing 98 again, which I don't know where that was the first 2 hitters of the game, but even then he didn't have great command. Brad said it in our DM chat or whatever, but like he just doesn't look like a major league pitcher until he cleans some of that stuff up. So AJ Smith-Shawver was not good. There's no debating that. I don't think Ian Anderson would have been good. I don't think Bryce Elder would have been good. They might have been better than that. But again, if you told me going in the game that the Braves would give up, well, they ended up giving up 4 runs because Jackson gave up a home run like the bottom of the 8th once the game was pretty much decided. But for the competitive part of the game, the pitching staff essentially gave up 3 runs. And with the guys they had available, if you just told me that and you said, would you take this and take your chances with a game? I would have taken that in a heartbeat. Like, yeah, we the first 8 innings of the game, we're only going to give up 3 runs. Do I take my chances that the offense can cover that up? Hell yeah, I do. With the guys they have pitching, I mean, that's a dream scenario, quite honestly, with who they had available tonight. But it didn't matter. I mean, that home run by Tatis could have been a solo home run, and that's all. AJ Smith-Shawver could have pitched 8 innings of shutout ball after that, and they still would have lost the game. I mean, pitching is not the story of this game. And I understand people are excited. Max Fried's on the mound tomorrow. Pitching is not the story. The pitching is not the story. The offense is the story. The offense has been the story all season long. And if it does this nonsense where it strikes out, it's swinging at every pitch they throw up, regardless of where it is, non-competitive at bat after non-competitive. It doesn't matter who pitches for the Braves. Until the offense remembers how to be a major league offense again, this is going to be a very, very short postseason run.
And the other thing, though, that I will say, if there is a bit of a positive, is that I would actually applaud. Listen, from a competitive standpoint, would I have probably started Dylan Lee or Aaron Bummer instead of AJ Smith-Shawver to get through the top part of the Padres order first? Sure. I think an argument can be made for that because the Padres do struggle more against lefties than they do righties. But Brian Snitker tonight, I think he did just fine when it came to the pitching changes. He put in Aaron Bummer, and Aaron Bummer, I believe, went, 2 1/3 innings? He allowed the Braves to stay within striking range when the Braves were actually creating chances. They just couldn't convert. But Aaron Bummer did his job. The Braves did not allow a hit between innings 3 and 7. And the pitchers that they had on the mound were Aaron Bummer, Jesse Chavez, and Luke Jackson during that time frame. So the pitching itself, outside of AJ Smith-Shawver, Snitker's decisions on how to use the pitching, that all was good tonight. So I think that that's a good. And another big thing to me, and we'll talk about this in just a bit, the other big thing to me is that you didn't have to use Pierce Johnson or Dylan Lee. Obviously, you weren't going to use Joe Jimenez or Raisel Iglesias likely regardless. But you have likely your 4 best relievers to back up Fried and hopefully Ronaldo Lopez over the next 2 days. So I know I agree with Steven 100%. None of this matters unless the offense shows up. But at least from a pitching perspective, not only did the guys that were on the mound do better than expected, but I applaud Brian Snitker for using the guys that he did while also keeping the most important arms fresh to at least continue to give the Braves a chance on the pitching side.
Yeah. And listen, there was a lot of debate online about Ian Anderson, Bryce Elder, AJ Smith-Shawver. People had some very strong opinions on these 3 guys and which of the 3 it should be and which of the 3 it shouldn't be. I don't know where these strong opinions are coming from. Like, all of these guys were a bad choice. I mean, no disrespect to these guys, but like, we've seen what Bryce Elder does in these moments. AJ's had a really up and down year with Gwinnett. He's been walking a lot of guys. Ian Anderson has been walking a ton of people in Gwinnett. He's had a really up and down year. Like, none of these were great. I mean, this was just a night of bad options. This was the penalty for not beating Kansas City on Sunday. And then you could have saved Spencer Swallenbach. Of course, we didn't know back then that Chris Sale was not going to pitch in the series. But, you beat Kansas City on Sunday. You don't have to pitch Swallenbach on yesterday. And he could have pitched this game. But again, even if Spencer Swallenbach pitches this game and throws 8 shutout innings, the Braves scored 0 runs. You know how many times in history a team has won with 0 runs? 0. You can't win a game if you don't score. It doesn't matter. Until the offense wakes up, it doesn't matter. And yes, Aaron Bummer was fantastic. And I felt somewhat vindicated by the fact that Aaron Bummer was fantastic because I've been trying to tell people all year that I thought he's very good. I know he had some crazy, batted ball luck this year. The opponents had like a 420, BABIP against him this year. But all of his underlying metrics are incredible. Like, he's a really good pitcher, and he looked great tonight. And Jesse Chavez looked good. And, Luke Jackson hung a slider, but other than that, he looked pretty good. And even if you take AJ Smith-Shawver out of the equation completely, that hanging slider that Jackson threw for a homer, that would have been enough to win the game for the Padres. So, yeah, the pitching is not the story. Like, it is great that the Braves have Max Fried and all their best relievers lined up for tomorrow. That's fantastic. It does give them a chance to win the game, but if the offense is going to do this, then it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters because they can't win like that.
And agree. At the end of the day, we can look at this all that we want to, but the offense has to show up. So let's talk about tomorrow's game, because to be honest with you, there's not much more we can cover about tonight's game because, hey, the pitching was okay to good, and there's just nothing positive to say about the offense. But the big thing here is that the Braves are facing elimination. I'm trying to find, as we speak, how the Braves have done in elimination games here in recent history. But the Braves are facing elimination. If the offense shows up like it has for the majority of the past, 5 months, the Braves offseason is going to start Thursday. But in this pitching matchup, Max Fried versus Joe Musgrove, you have to feel as if the Braves do have the advantage. In 5 career starts across 29 innings, Max Fried has a 2.30 ERA against the Padres. You also have to think that there's some extra motivation for Max Fried as well, in that he probably doesn't want this to be his last start as a Brave as we enter the offseason, where he's going to be a free agent and likely will be headed elsewhere. And hey, maybe a little bit of extra motivation with the fact that he'll be facing the team that originally drafted him and traded him away to the Braves. It was the Padres who originally drafted Max Fried. There's going to be plenty of motivation for Max Fried to come out and have a great start for Atlanta. So I feel strongly the pitching is going to be able to do its job. It comes down, obviously, as we continue to say, to the offense. But Steven, it seems like it's going to be a bit of an easier matchup for the Braves when you compare Joe Musgrove to what we saw Michael King do on Tuesday night and what we saw Dylan Cease do earlier this year. I think the Braves have to feel a bit better about their chances against Joe Musgrove if they can make the most of it.
Yeah. Joe Musgrove, we looked up the career stats before the podcast, and Joe Musgrove has faced the Braves 8 times in his career. It's got a 4.29 ERA. So, nothing great, nothing terrible. It's just been kind of an average pitcher for when he's faced the Braves. This year for the Padres, I would say he's had a slightly, he kind of had a step back season. He was really good last year. And then this year, I think he's got an ERA in close to the 4s for the season. If you look at their 3 pitchers, Michael King, Joe Musgrove, Dylan Cease, Musgrove certainly had the worst year out of those 3 guys. So theoretically, just off of those numbers, you would think this is the Braves' best chance to score. Because remember, they got Dylan Cease for Wednesday's game. If they even make it to that game, they got Dylan Cease to go against in Wednesday's game. And he dominated the Braves, unlike maybe any pitcher I've seen in a long time earlier this year when the Braves were in San Diego. So you got to win tomorrow, of course. It's Joe Musgrove on the mound. You have had some success against him in the past. Like Shawn said, Max Fried has had success against the Padres. The Padres this year have not done well against left-handed pitching. We saw that when Aaron Bummer came in the game. This is why I was so bummed that Chris Sale couldn't pitch, because if it was Chris Sale and Max Fried and Aaron Bummer and Dylan Lee, and even if AJ Minter was available, you could have seen a world where the Braves really could have shut down the Padres offense altogether. Now, the Braves still got to score at some point, of course, but the fact that they have Max going tomorrow, the fact that they have Dylan Lee available tomorrow, there is a chance that the Braves can really shut down the Padres lineup. They just got to somewhere score. And if they would score enough to maybe give even a little margin of error, that would be tremendous. But at this point, I'll take anything. I'll take a 2-run homer and hope that Max can make it stand up. That might be their best chance to win tomorrow. But yeah, the pitching matchup is definitely in favor of the Braves. Max Fried's a better pitcher than Joe Musgrove. Max has had good success against the Padres. The Padres have not hit left-handed pitching well this year. They're 19th or 20th in baseball against lefties this year. So that's a good matchup. That's a really good matchup on that side of the ball. Now, can the offense show up in a way that it really hasn't shown up all year?
Well, and the thing that I'll say is this, is to your point, in a way that it has not shown up all year. I agree that it definitely more often than not has struggled. But I do think that a couple of factors that could come into play in this game do favor the Braves if they can simply take advantage of it. Again, I've been a broken record, and I'm sorry for being so repetitive when it comes to me mentioning this, but over the past 2 months, the Braves have quite a bit, at least more frequently than they did, it felt like, in May, June, and July. When the Braves have found their backs against the wall, they have come back. They bounce back to be able to, put themselves in a better than expected position as a reaction to a really negative occurrence. The Rockies game, Austin Riley's injury, a few other times, coming off that losing 3 out of 4 against the Phillies in the series, the Dodgers losses, each time they bounce back. I think they could potentially do it again, especially with Max Fried on the mound. But a couple of reasons why I think they may have a bit better luck against Musgrove is that Michael Harris II had 2 more hits tonight. He has been a huge catalyst at the top of the order for the Braves over the past 6 weeks. And the Braves' ability to produce offense early in games has certainly skyrocketed. It's looked more, their ability to score early in games has looked much closer to the 2023 Braves offense than the rest of 2024 did basically before mid-August. So the Braves' ability to score runs early in the game in recent weeks, I think, could become a better potential in this game. Also consider the fact that Joe Musgrove has given up 9 home runs across his 19 starts in the first 3 innings of those 19 games. If you combine his outings and you look at the first 3 innings of each of his outings, he's given up 9 home runs in that span. So every other game, he's given up a home run in the first 3 innings. If the Braves can find some success, if they could convert a run-scoring opportunity or hit a couple of balls hard in the first 3 innings and give Max Fried a lead to work with, that could lead to good results. And again, Stephen, I think that it's going to be a bit easier to be against Joe Musgrove. They've just got to be locked in and put together productive at-bats early in the game like they did tonight, but actually get some runs across the plate.
Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. I think Max will have a good game. I think he does have quite a bit of motivation because it could be the last time he ever wears that uniform. It could be the last time he ever has the Braves logo across his chest. If it doesn't go well next 2 days, then Max is probably done in a Braves uniform. So I do think he'll be highly motivated. We saw what he did last time out against the Royals, where he basically threw a complete game shutout. He came out one out short. I like the matchup a ton against the Padres, who struggle against left-handed pitching. All that looks great, and I love the Braves matchup in that regard. I just have zero confidence that the offense is going to do anything, even against Joe Musgrove, who they've had success against in the past. But like, there's just something about the 2024 offense that is fundamentally broken. I don't know what it is. Injuries are part of it, but injuries are not all of it. And just the approach this team takes to the plate every single game, every single at bat, swinging from their heels, no matter the situation, trying to hit a home run on every single pitch, regardless of where that pitch is, it drives me insane. And until they fix that, until they can actually put up some competitive, major league, caliber at bats in big situations, I'm afraid there's going to be a very short postseason run for the Braves. If they do it tomorrow and they come back to life, then great. It'll be fantastic. And we got a real shot on Wednesday. But if the offensive team that showed up in today's game and has showed up most of the season comes to the park tomorrow, then tomorrow night's podcast with Brad and Scott is going to be essentially a post-mortem on the season.
All right, Steven, so let's have a little bit of trivia here. How many elimination games have the Braves played in the playoffs over the past 25 years, since 1999?
How many elimination games?
How many games have how many playoff games have the Braves played in where they were facing elimination?
Well, I remember famously they did not face an elimination game in 2021. I remember that stat.
Correct.
So let me think. They've been to the playoffs. What year did you say?
Over the past 25 years.
25 years. So 1999. So they've been to the playoffs probably 21 of those years, 22 of those years. So if you average like 1 or 2 per year, I'll say they've played in, I don't know, 30 something elimination games.
Well, they have since 1990. So yeah, so that would be a pretty good number. They're 12-19 in elimination games since 1990. But over the past 25 years, tomorrow will be their 19th elimination game.
19, okay.
They are 3-15 over their past 25 years. 18 times they faced an elimination, 3 times they've won the game.
Okay, the way you set that up, I thought that was going to be a more positive stat. I'm not going to lie. I got sucked into that. You got me with that one, because I was thinking this was going to be like, you're the more positive one of the podcast. So I was thinking like, okay, Shawn's going to come in here with a nice positive, stat to really boost me up. I was not expecting like another sucker punch like that. So that one hurt. I'm not going to lie, Shawn, that one hurt.
But I mean, it goes to show, if you're during the 14 straight division titles, we only win 1 World Series. during these seven straight playoff runs, the offense more often than not has been, not good versus good. The reason why is because it's how you start and how you finish in playoff series, right? And the Braves have not started out playoff series well. The Braves have not fared well in elimination games. So until
they don't do game ones well, and they don't do elimination games well.
That's a pretty hard formula to not.
I'm starting to pick up why the Braves don't have a lot of success in October.
Absolutely. Again, if anybody asks you why the Braves over the past some odd years have not done well in the playoffs, well, it's because they win about 30% of their game ones and they win about 20% of their elimination games. So until those trends stop, it's going to be hard to find success. So listen, I know I like to be positive. I enjoy it, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to the truth. And it's hard to deny that the Braves, once again, are seeing things line up. And I know this year that there may be more reasons outside of their control that things are not happening. But in terms of what they can control, they were historically bad in game one. They've been very bad compared to recent years all season long. We're asking them tomorrow to do something we've seen them do time and time again, but they've not done it consistently. So hopefully we'll be surprised. Hopefully the offense will get Max Fried an early lead. He'll be able to work with it. We'll be able to sit there and have our bullpen work as well, shorten the game and get a win, and still set up Ronaldo Lopez to be in pretty good position with some of our bullpen arms for game 3. I think there's a good chance that could happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves once again struggle in an elimination game. And again, our off season starts on Thursday. Steven, do you have anything else for us as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
No, I mean, I feel like I feel like when the Braves do play in the postseason, I don't know why. This is anecdotal. I don't have any numbers. I feel like they lose game 1. I feel like a lot of times they come back and win game 2 pretty frequently. I remember the last 2 years against the Phillies. That's exactly what happened. They lost game 1 at home and came back and won game 2. So I do have some confidence that this team can go and win a game 2 tomorrow. Again, they have Max Fried on the mound. They have all their best relievers ready to go. I don't know where that confidence comes from given the offense, but for some reason, I feel like this series is going to come down to the Braves having to beat Dylan Cease on Wednesday. And at this point, I would love for that to happen because that means they win tomorrow. But I'm going to end this podcast with some positivity. I know this was a negative show because of the game we just watched, but I'm going to end the show with some positivity. I think the Braves win tomorrow. I like the matchup. It's a good matchup for the Braves. Great matchup for Max. Bullpen's back to being normal. It's kind of a much more normal game. Game 1 was a very abnormal game. And I think the offense might come out and score like 3 or 4 runs and Max makes it hold up. That's my prediction for game 2. I'm deciding to end this show positively. We'll see what happens.
Steven, I'm so proud of you. We have reversed roles.
That was a big deal for me. And I'm not normally like that.
And do you want a bit more reason to have positivity?
I would love them. I would love another reason.
Sure. Over the past 25 years, the Braves have had 22 game 2s. Do you want to guess what their record is?
Here we go. This is where I thought you were going the first. Yeah, give me this. This is what I want.
Do you want to know what their record is in those game 2s? Those 22 game 2s over the past 25 years.
15-7. That was a guess.
18-4.
18-4. That's a great stat. All right.
18-4. As a matter of fact, that's
a good way to end the podcast, right? Like 18-4 in game 2s. Max on the mound. All the relievers. We're ending the show with some positivity.
17-2 over their past 19 game 2s.
17-2 over the last 19. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are strong. Those are strong numbers.
So what's going to come true for the Braves tomorrow? Is it going to be their success in game 2s, or is it going to be their struggles in elimination games? Again, over the past 25 years, the Braves are 18-4 in game 2s, 17-2 over the last 19 game 2s they played in, but 3-15 in elimination games. We'll see what they can do. I feel like they'll get the win. I feel like I'm going to end the show on some positivity too. I feel like they'll get the win. The offense has to show up. I believe the pitching will. And if the offense can show up tomorrow and the pitching can get the job done, we'll have the momentum going into game 3 and we'll see what can occur. But if there's one last thing to end on, in my opinion, it's not going to take much for the offense to be better than it was on Tuesday night. Steven, I know I'd probably just asked this, but I'll ask again, any final thoughts as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
No, I'll use this one to plug the show. Obviously, we are going to cover every game that gets played in the postseason. We'll have a show after each one. Brad and Scott will do a show. I'm fairly certain. I think that's the plan tomorrow. And then obviously if game 3 happens, we'll have a show on Thursday. And if some miracle they win those 2 games, then we'll do, obviously the NLDS against the Dodgers as well. Every single game that they play, we will have a show after. So make sure you're subscribed. We do have a YouTube channel that has taken off recently in terms of our subscribers, which helps us a ton. We are going to do a lot more video. We started doing that at the end of the year. That'll be something we do a lot more next year. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, obviously anywhere you get podcasts. And we are supremely grateful for the support that we've gotten all year. I don't know if Shawn and I will have another show for the 2024 season, quite honestly. So I do want to say that we are extremely grateful for an awesome year, and you guys have been tremendous.
Steven, your positivity has just energized me.
I know. I don't know what's happening. I had a couple of beers. I feel good. I don't know what's happening to me.
Listen, if you can end the podcast on a positive note, that gives me faith this Braves offense can turn into the 2023 regular season version of itself in this postseason. I'm going to end it with that. But all joking aside, thanks so much for the support. Of course, make sure you check out the Foul Territory family of podcasts, which Hammer Territory is extremely proud to be a part of. So many team podcasts under the Foul Territory family of podcasts as well, many of which are in the postseason. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. You may see more frequent video versions of the podcast as well, but cannot thank you enough for the support. This is not a sign-off for me and Steven for the season. Again, if you've listened to the last 5 minutes of this podcast, we're ending it on a positive note. The Braves are going to get the victory tomorrow, and we'll see how that sets up for Game 3 on Thursday. Until next time, you can find Steven at B_Outliers on Twitter /X, myself at StatsSAC, Hammer Territory across all forms of social media at Hammer Territory. Brad Rowland and Scott Coleman will be with you no matter what after Game 2 tomorrow. Stay with us. Hopefully, we're going to have plenty more games to discuss when it comes to the Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.